Thank you, Hannes. Before introducing Professor Suzuki, I would like just to give the colleagues short information concerning the timing. The idea is that the presentation by Professor Suzuki will be of the order of 45 minutes, with flexibility, of course. And then we will have, as usual, a question-answer session, which should last around 45 minutes, again, with certain flexibility. At the end of the presentation, I will give the floor for questions to those who will raise the hand electronically, and then we will see the development of the discussion. So let me now say a few words on Professor Tatsujiro Suzuki, who is a vice director and professor at the Research Center for Nuclear Weapons Abolition at Nagasaki University. This institution is also called RECNA in Japan. And he is a member of many other institutions, has been member of many other committees and important institutions in Japan and elsewhere. You can find all these in the presentation to this talk. I would like to add just a couple of words on who is him, not mainly related to the role he has in these institutions, but to the fact that he is a person who is very, very friendly and very, very available to contribute to the efforts that are made for making links between science and policy making, science and those topics where, let's say, there is a strong impact on society. I contacted him thanks to a person I was in touch with from a Pugwash conference just a few weeks before an event that we were organizing in Vietnam in a city which is in the middle of Vietnam, together with the Interparliamentary Union. And despite this was very tough for him to organize, he accepted and he came to the conference, and he gave an excellent presentation, which was really very well welcomed. And when some weeks ago I contacted him again for this presentation in our forum, he immediately said yes. And I would like really to thank him very much, because now it's 8 o'clock in Japan, and we all appreciated his availability. So I think that this was due from my side. And now I would like to give the floor to Professor Suzuki, to Tatsu. Please, Tatsu, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk this subject for distinguished scientists today. And I just want to make some scientific factual correction that now it's 9 p.m. in Japan. Now it's 8 p.m. Anyway, thank you very much. Let me share the screen. Can you see it? No problem? Okay. RECNA was established in 2012, inspired by the speech by President Obama in Prague. At that time, there was a high expectation that nuclear disarmament will eventually lead to the actual abolition of nuclear weapons. And at that time, Nagasaki City didn't have any research institute dedicated to the nuclear disarmament. In Hiroshima, we have a Peace Research Institute, but there's no such institute in Nagasaki at that time. So Nagasaki City and Prefecture and Nagasaki University joined together to establish this research institute. Actually, now it's in the Nagasaki University. It's solely funded by the university, but we have a collaboration with Nagasaki City and Nagasaki Prefecture also. So this is the background of research institute. It's a very small institute, only 4 full-time professors, and we are working very hard to currently it's very difficult situation. So that this project is actually reflect such kind of very difficult situation right now. Today, I would like to discuss first just basically the global trend of the increasing nuclear risk, and then go into our project on reducing risk of nuclear weapon use in Northeast Asia, and then give you a final results of the simulation results and the policy implications. Those are the three major topics. Okay, so increasing nuclear risk. You know the doomsday clock. I think you are familiar with this, and every January they publish the doomsday clock. Right now it's the worst since the end of World War II, actually, 90 seconds. And these are the list of the analysis that they provided in this. They have a couple of pages long description of why they put the clock 90 seconds. And these are the lists. And of course, the first one is most important, Russian invasion of Ukraine, with a threat to use nuclear weapons. But also in the background, even before the Ukrainian crisis, the number of nuclear weapons available for deployment is increasing in the last 5 years or so. And there's no progress in between US and Russia nuclear disarmament negotiations. And they also, all nuclear weapon states are modernizing nuclear weapons and changing the doctrine of nuclear weapons use policy. I said China is a no first use. Actually, China is still keeping the no first use policy, but all other nuclear weapon states, basically, there's no first use policy. So they are ready to use nuclear weapons first. And then, of course, for proliferation, DPRK and Iran, no progress. And then eventually, finally, they have emphasized, these scientist groups emphasize the emerging risk of the new technologies like a cyber, AI, drone, hypersonic plane. All these are affecting the reliability of nuclear weapon systems. So this is a very dangerous time. And this is the background of the information. The number of nuclear weapons actually decreased quite significantly since the end of Cold War. The peak was roughly 70,000. Now it's roughly 12,000 or so. But if you look at this curve, the number of nuclear weapons is decreasing, but the doomsday clock is getting worse in the last 10 years. And these are the past almost 50 years of doomsday clock. And this is the before 2018. This was the worst one, 2 minutes hydrogen bomb test in 1953. And 2018, when US withdrew from JCPOA and DPRK nuclear test, it was 2018. This is became worse than 1953. Now it's 90 seconds. This is the worst. And as I said, the number of nuclear weapons, this is the poster we publish every year in June. Then this poster is for educational purposes. We distribute this poster among the junior high school and high school so that people can get the rough idea of what are the number of nuclear weapons at this moment. And this is the total number, 12,520. And as you can see, this is the doomsday clock. And these circles are the number of nuclear weapons. And this big one is the United States. This big one, another big one is Russia. So more than 90% of nuclear warheads is US and Russia, as you know. These are other countries here. But here, the problem is this 12,520 warheads include this gray one. This gray one is waiting for the retirement, no longer be used for deployment. So if you only exclude those gray ones, only count that are available for deployment, these are the numbers. From 2018 to 2023, there's an increase. And then if you look at by country, Russia and China are the most increasing country in terms of the warheads available for deployment. And all other countries except France and the United States, the number is increasing. So we are already in the nuclear weapons, not disarmament, actually expansion of nuclear armed forces. And this is the G7 summit held in Hiroshima. This is the first time that G7 leaders issued a statement dedicated to nuclear disarmament, because this is held in Hiroshima. It was good that all G7 countries leaders visited Hiroshima and the museums and met with the hibakusha. This was very useful experience. And however, the statement included this sentence that basically confirming the value of nuclear weapons as for deterrence, to attack deterrence for other countries to attack nuclear to us. And so basically deterrence, they confirm the deterrence as an important part of the security policy. So even if they say, oh, Russia should not, they should not attack, they should not threat Ukraine, they only talk about the Russia, but they are actually all other countries, G7 countries, there are 3 nuclear weapon states. No, we need the nuclear weapons for deterrence purposes. So I don't think it's good enough. And in fact, the media and the Hiroshima and Nagasaki, all the hibakusha are very furious that if those statements appear in the joint G7 statement in Hiroshima. This is worrisome, another worrisome trend in the United States. This is a congressional report, a commission, just published this month. And they are prominent experts on the security policies. They said basically responding to the Chinese and Russian threat, United States should change their defense security policy, particularly the nuclear deterrence policy. And U.S. strategy would need to be altered to increase reliance on nuclear weapons to deter counter opportunities or collaborative aggression in the other theater, means China and Russia. And also their sentence here address the need for U.S. theater nuclear forces deployed or based in Asia Pacific theater. This is new. In the last probably almost 20 years, United States are not planning to deploy nuclear weapons on the basis in South Korea and Japan. I don't know what this means, but they are recommending that nuclear weapons should be in this region to counterbalance against the Russia and China. Okay, so that's a background, and then our project. This is basically the situation in Northeast Asia. We have 4 nuclear weapon states here, and U.S. Russia not talking each other at all, and China is reportedly increasing its arsenal, and Department of Defense estimating that China may increase nuclear weapons to 1,500, not roughly 400 right now, so roughly more than 3 times by 2035. I don't know if that is going to happen or not. But basically China is increasing the number of nuclear weapons against missile defense system in this region. And China, by the way, China is the only one country here in this region officially announcing no first use policy. DPRK also increasing nuclear weapons and also missile system, developing missile system. Last year, the new nuclear weapons law was adopted. The law specified that the conditions of nuclear weapon use, including the first use of nuclear weapons. This was not the case before. So the likelihood of nuclear weapon use in this region is increasing. Against those background, Republic of Korea, South Korea, and Japan actually they are now depending on extended nuclear deterrence, means nuclear umbrella, trying to emphasize the military alliance with the United States, specifically the extended nuclear deterrence. And this is the statement just this August. They have a Camp David summit. This is the first time South Korea, Japan, Japanese head of the state, president, prime minister, meeting with US President in Camp David. So this is very significant. And three leaders agreed that the U.S.-Japan alliance could be very, very important and should be strengthened. It means that this is the signals to China and Russia and North Korea. This picture is important, interesting. Nuclear umbrella. The word nuclear umbrella is the image that there's an umbrella, but actually there's no umbrella, and there's no physical umbrella actually. But the only thing we have is missiles, and so extended nuclear deterrence without this umbrella, they're basically missiles threatening to attack other countries if they attack us. So this umbrella does not exist in reality. All right, so our project is basically responding to those increasing risk. We are trying to analyze, understand what are the real risk of nuclear weapons use in this region, and then try to develop policy recommendations to minimize such risk. And of course, the most important thing is from Nagasaki is this is the keyword. Let Nagasaki be the last city to be attacked by nuclear weapons. So no more nuclear weapons used for military purposes. And so this whole project is the ultimate goal is let Nagasaki be the last. And so we have this is a 3-year project. It started 2021. And the first year we developed so-called plausible cases of nuclear weapon use in the region. And second year, last year, was quantify the consequences of nuclear weapon use in the region. And this year, we are now trying to develop policy recommendations. And so first year, we published a report in last year, developed 25 cases. Later, after Russian invasion of Ukraine, we developed 5 more cases involving Russia. So now it's 30 cases of nuclear weapon use in Northeast Asia. And 3 conditions. We invited experts, security policy, nuclear strategies, regional politics experts to on online meeting, a closed workshop, and try to have a free discussion to generate cases. And the criteria is no likelihood, no probability assigned. If you think it's going to happen, please, whatever, even if it's low probability, please list those things. And think unthinkable is a very most important part of the security policy. And also should be based on the factual evidence. Don't just not because of imagination, but they need evidence to develop those cases, because we need to have a so-called plausible cases. And then finally, the cases which we can draw policy implications. So we have developed 25 cases. This is the kind of scenario we try to develop. We focus on so-called triggering events. Under what condition, what kind of events will trigger nuclear weapon states to use nuclear weapons. And then after first use of nuclear weapons, what kind of development afterwards, and then finally, eventually, what are the outcome. And so this is first use of nuclear weapons is unintended and intended use. And finally, the negotiation may succeed or global nuclear war. These are the wide range of spectrums. And this is another way of looking at it. We have 25 cases here. You see the target from urban civilian to large military bases, and deliberate intended nuclear use and unintended nuclear use. Roughly 25 cases. US is here, Russia here, North Korea, and China, and terrorists. So we try to be fair that first use of nuclear weapons could be done by all countries, all nuclear weapon states in this region. This is a development scenario after the first use, and what's going to happen there, dividing point. And I think it's very important to think about both cases. And some of the cases may quite happily that it can end the war, but on the other hand, we don't know what's going to happen, eventually go into the global nuclear war. So this is a kind of development tool that we used for scenario cases. And we have 25 cases. In the report, we have summary of these cases in each case, describing triggering events, how the conflict evolves, use case consequences, and then we have also identified what are the key uncertainties to determine the outcome. Now, this is also very important. And we drew some conclusion from the first year. Basically, these are the important conclusions. About half of the cases involve unintended use of nuclear weapons. Such unintended use can be triggered by miscommunication among the nuclear weapon states, lack of mutual understanding, or misunderstanding, and accident, human errors, etc. So this is a very scary scenario. Particularly under the very tight security conditions, this could easily happen. And then second point is, once nuclear weapons are used, all these experts, all the military experts, security experts, and all these people say, oh, it is very difficult to foresee what will happen afterwards. And it is possible that diplomacy may work, but those are unpredictable. And regardless of intentions by policymakers, most of course, all cases, in fact, intended use for nuclear use is try to end the war, actually. That's the purpose. Unfortunately, the first use of nuclear weapons could develop into uncontrollable nuclear exchange. The third point is interesting. Depending on the personalities and behavior of the leader, the outcome could be quite significantly different, particularly under pressure. So this is more characteristics of the leader is very important. And this is also, it's not necessarily based on the rational thinking. Sometimes the leader could behave very strangely. That's another problem that we may face. And finally, is unlike during the Cold War, at that time, the focus on ICBM, very simple ICBM, but now there are a variety of nuclear weapons, small, low yield, and very accurate and guiding missile or even hypersonic missiles to large, submarine launch or ICBMs or many kind of different type of nuclear weapons. So it's very difficult to make particular strategy to deal with nuclear weapon systems at this moment. So this is also different from the Cold War time. And then the second year, last year, we tried to quantify the consequences of nuclear weapon use. We chose 5 cases out of 30 and quantify only physical impacts, and then draw possible lessons from those quantitative results. And this is just to show that the NHK, the Japanese public broadcasting company, was interested in our research project, and they followed us very closely. And after we published the report, they made a special TV news program, and they made a very nice CG graphics. And this was broadcast in the golden time. So I think it's this September 15th. This is in English. I don't know if they can watch it right now, but if you can watch it, I appreciate that. This is very well done program. Anyway, impacts considered. Those are the impacts considered. We did not consider whether environmental impacts or weather impacts. We didn't have much time and resources to do that. Only these 5 impacts. Okay, 5 cases. First user, DPRK, US, terrorist, Russia, and China. So we divided 5 cases. And the number of nuclear weapons used is 381, 824. And also weapon size vary also. And against first user, who will respond to the first user. These are the 5 cases we developed. The first one, DPRK as a first user. Triggering event is that they were very unhappy about the lack of progress. So DPRK will try to get attention from the United States. So they initiate so-called demonstration attack with nuclear weapons in a very remote area of the military base in South Korea. And then South Korea requested United States to respond with this military and nuclear weapons use. The United States force will attack DPRK with conventional forces. However, that is not good enough. DPRK continued to survive. Then eventually the United States decided to use nuclear weapons. And this is the case. And then diplomacy worked, only 3 nuclear weapons were used. Uncertain factor is, of course, US allocate deter force use of nuclear weapons by DPRK. I don't know. With Russia and China never participate. If this exchange happened, will China and Russia never participate or not? This is another factor. And this is the result of the 3 nuclear weapons use. This number shows this white one is 10,000 deaths. The gray one is 10,000 long-term deaths. So total death is 11,000. And these are the radioactive clouds going over to Japan. So this is the case of this blue area is basically 0.1 rem, so it's 1 millisievert. All right. So case 2 is US as a force user. US is, in this case, the characteristic is very overconfident US president. Initiate force strike to eliminate all DPRK nuclear forces. He thought that it is possible to eliminate DPRK nuclear forces eventually. However, it didn't succeed. The DPRK responded with the surviving nuclear weapons, and then we have exchange of the US and DPRK nuclear exchange. And finally, in this case, China will join. So a total of 18 nuclear weapons are used. And this is the second largest number of nuclear weapons used in the 5 cases. So number of deaths is 2.1 million people will be killed in a short term. And then eventually this will more another 480,000 to 920,000 people may die because of long-term radiation risk. And the radioactive clouds, the first use, second use, strike, and third use, and then eventually even Southeast Asia could be covered by the radioactive clouds. These are nuclear weapon free zone in this area, but they cannot avoid the consequence of nuclear weapon use. Japan is covered by also this cloud. Actually, North Korea will attack South Korea, US bases, and Japanese. This is city in Japan. Case 3 is a terrorist attack in Tokyo. And this is the Japanese terrorist. However, the nuclear forensic analysis proved that the material used in the bomb came from DPRK. So we suspected DPRK could be assisting this terrorist group, but there's no evidence. And in fact, the DPRK said, no, we are not involved. And actually, in order to prove that DPRK was not involved, they helped Japan to support to finish the war. And actually, I mean the conflict. So actually, only 1 bomb was used, and this is the terrorist attack case. Actually, in Tokyo, middle of Tokyo. So only 1 bomb will result in 220,000 deaths in this case. Case 4, Russia is the first case. This is the developed case after the Ukrainian invasion, Russian invasion of Ukraine. And in the midst of increasing tension in Ukrainian military conflicts, Japan and South Korea demanding the United States, would you please put the nuclear weapons in this region? And so they did, and the United States did, and then responding to US moves, Russia ordered tighten the preparedness for against nuclear war, and they misunderstand the Russia misunderstood the intention of US move, and then started nuclear strike against US bases or military ships in the region. So military bases in Japan are okay with the target. And then US responded by attacking Russian military bases in Far East. And so total of 18 nuclear weapons were used. And then roughly 290,000 people will be killed, and then this radioactive clouds. All right, number 5 is the largest one, in Taiwan case. Independent, the Taiwan government now was born to try to be independent from China, and China was threatened. China threatened to military attack in Taiwan, and eventually China decided to attack Taiwan. Then U.S. military responded, and then the conventional forces, U.S. is stronger. The China is afraid that they might lose, so they finally decided to change their no forces policy, then initiate a nuclear strike against U.S. bases in the region, in South Korea and Japan again, and the U.S. military ships. And then U.S. attack again, and this is the biggest exchange, about 24 nuclear weapons. And they finally attack the mainland U.S. and mainland inside China. So this is the largest exchange of nuclear weapons, 24 nuclear weapons. So finally, this is 2.6 million people will be killed. And the radioactive clouds all over the Southeast Asia and Japan and South Korea and China. So this is the most significant, 24 nuclear weapons used. All right. So this is a summary of the estimated casualties of all cases. We concluded basically about 25% of population will be a victim in all these cases, sometimes bigger, 30% or so, depending on the size of the nuclear bombs, and also either it's surface burst or air burst is also quite different in terms of the long-term death. And firestorm, I didn't talk about firestorm. Firestorm impact could be large, and the third thing is even for a smaller case, this is the most smaller case. Only 3 nuclear weapons, very small nuclear weapons, but more than 5,000, 11,000 people will be killed. And eventually, we concluded we have to quantify the number of nuclear weapons used, but actually it is impossible. It's impossible to foresee how many bombs actually will be used. So these are just the references for our estimate. Okay, so the conclusion is that combining year 1, year 2 report, we understood now there are many pathways, possibilities to lead into fast nuclear weapons, with or without intentions. And then once the nuclear weapons are used, it is hard to predict the development, even for decision makers or military planners. This is very scary. The second is, it is possible that all these cases are regional conflict, but it is possible that regional conflict involving nuclear weapons could develop to a larger scale exchange of nuclear weapons within only hours or days, very quickly. And even an attack against remote military facilities, it could result in thousands of casualties. That's what we concluded. And also, impact of firestorm could be much more significant. This project, we inquired the experts on firestorms, and the impact of firestorms was not considered enough in the past. So previous nuclear plants have not considered the impact of firestorms, and thus considering firestorm impact from now on could influence the future nuclear planning, particularly targeting policy. The firestorm could be quite different in terms of depending on the target, and also geological conditions. The fourth one, it is now clear that the radioactive fallout could diffuse very widely beyond the conflict regions, affecting the region outside of the conflict area. So even for those who are not part of the conflict will be quite significantly affected. Those areas might include nuclear weapon-free zone in Southeast Asia or Central Asia, along this area. Also, the final point, first nuclear weapons used are likely to be so-called tactical nuclear weapons. It's very, very unlikely that ICBM will be used against major nuclear weapon states. The first use is basically smaller tactical nuclear weapons, and the targets are not the major nuclear weapon states, but basically the alliance, the nuclear umbrella states in the region. In Northeast Asia, most likely South Korea and Japan military bases are the most likely targets. This is important for the people who depending on, for think nuclear deterrence is important. Once nuclear umbrella is broken, we are the first to be attacked, not the United States or Russia. We are the one. In Europe, also, not Russia and United States will be the first target, but the European countries, NATO countries are the likely target, particularly if the country who hosts the nuclear weapons, most likely the targets. So this is the risk of so-called nuclear umbrella states. All right, possible implications to reduce nuclear. This is very preliminary possible implications. Of course, we understand the miscommunication was a problem. So communications among nuclear weapon states should be kept critically important, hotline and information sharing. And this is very important to minimize the risk of unintended use for nuclear weapons. And then also in the case of conflict, don't depend on nuclear weapons for military strategies. To reduce the role of nuclear weapons or dependence on nuclear deterrence should be reduced in the security policies. There are a couple of specific ideas. No first use, no threat of use policy should be as a global norm, and regional confidence building measures, or eventually nuclear weapon free zone in this region, that kind of thing. We are now discussing much more in detail how to reduce the local nuclear weapons in security policies. All right, so now it's time for nuclear disarmament, even in a very strict security improvement. We cannot wait for the time that is, this is not the time for the disarmament dialogue. No, we have to start now for nuclear disarmament dialogue, because otherwise anything could happen. The first use of nuclear could happen tomorrow. And these three recommendations made by the Izumi Nakamitsu, the United Nations high officials for disarmament, published in the paper last year. Okay, thank you very much. This is the last of my slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tatsu. This was really a very interesting and clear description of what you are doing, and I see that several colleagues are thanking you also with the applause.